Hello and welcome to Nerdicy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdicus Dave, and today I'm joined by John J. Gamble and Mark Ryan Hagan. How are you folks doing today?
Excellent.
I'm great.
Glad to be here.
So, real fast, I just want to have each of you introduce yourselves and kind of tell people a little bit about you. I'll start with you, John.
Uh, my name is John, obviously. I have been in RPGs I played them for 20 years, primarily focused with World of Darkness. And I got hooked up here with Mark about a year and a half ago, got involved in his project and just fell in love with it. I've been working on that and the newest project we have right now, Bloodstone Isle, and it's just been amazing. I have enjoyed it and I look forward to keep writing and building more. Pretty much it.
Thank you. And handing it off to you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm Mark Reinhagen. I guess my biggest claim to fame is Vampire the Masquerade in the World of Darkness. I was the founder of White Wolf Games and did the whole, invented the whole World of Darkness. I was on the board of directors of Wizard of the Coast and helped them find the first printer for and organize that for the first printing of Magic. I've done some board games. I've done computer games. And I recently I've been doing consulting in the Middle East and Central Asia, but I'm back doing gaming, which is my true love. And I'm just hoping that I can, make enough money that I can live on it, so I don't have to go back working for dictators.
Oh my god, that's all of our hopes, really, just to make enough money doing this, so we don't have to go back to working for dictators.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
the
just
running of the
scale's different.
dictators, at least the kind of dictators who work with America. We have plenty of dictators who hate America, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are working with a company called Lostlorn Games, and you probably they have a Kickstarter going right now that you guys are involved with.
well, actually, we're starting live on your show in about 30 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, so the halfway mark of the show, there's a link in the description. You'll be able to click on and go check out the Kickstarter. Actually, like, you can check it out now. You just can't back it yet. So,
But back it in a half hour.
but
In a
back
half
it in
hour,
a
you
half
can.
hour for sure.
This is our first Kickstarter, so we're not looking to make a huge amount of money, but we're really, it's very important we do okay with this.
We're
So
not
we
against
pay our
making a lot of money.
amazing
Yeah.
because what we've done on this is, which is quite rare, is that it's already laid out.
Mhm.
Like, we've already done all the art, we've done all the writing, it's laid out, it's ready to go. People who backing it will get their PDFs immediately after the Kickstarter ends and the funding comes through, which is like 15 days. So people will get it right away. But of course, we need to be able to pay our artists and writers who have kindly foregone payment until now. So it's pretty important that we get our minimum.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually very kind of them to work up front. I would really appreciate working with some of those folks, because putting together a book is not cheap.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And it's tricky, but I personally am foregoing anything, making any kind of money from it. I was lucky enough to make money from WotC and White Wolf earlier on, and I just hope to make money down the line, make a living down the line. But right now, I just want to have my people paid,
Yeah.
and
So
build up a little stock of money to run a company.
for each of you, I'll start with you, John. What attracted you to this project, and if you could actually kind of tell us a little bit about what the project is.
Sure. So what attracted me to the project, honestly, was the fact that I'd be working with Mark. Like I said, I was really into the World of Darkness, always have been. So, of course, I wanted to get involved with what he was doing. With that being said, when I got involved, when I saw what was being done, I was really taken away by it. It's very different. There are many elements that are still very similar in respects that we focus on. We focus on not. I wouldn't necessarily say play it as clearly as we play the monster, but we focus on that desperation. We focus on that despair. This world of Lostlorn. This is This is a world that is essentially like a prison. This is a world where your moat, your soul, cannot escape, and you just continuously are reincarnated. And there's a whole vast array of politics and birthrights. And birthrights is the term we use for races. There's a whole bunch of different aspects that we've put in there, and it's very, very beautiful in many different ways. Uh, Ultimately, when it comes to the game and the way it's set up, we're going to have different birthrights, races, and they're going to have different characteristics, different aspects. But and while they're different, we can relate to them all very intimately. And I'm just really excited for it.
What about you, Mark? What attracted you to this particular project?
Well, I mean, this is basically me going to D&D. I've never done a D&D project in my life. It's the first time I've ever done. And this is a 5e project. And basically, the world Lostlorn, in which, the curse of Bloodstone Island can be set. Actually, this island moves through the multiverse. So you can put it in any setting you want in D&D. But properly, it originated from Lostlorn. This is my first D&D campaign. And when I moved to Australia when I was 17, I quit this campaign and started, I discovered girls and surfing, and I didn't role play again really until I got to college, so it's really, it taps into something really primordial in me, in that this is like my first campaign. And I really, as a kid, put a lot of time into this. As anyone who played D&D as a kid, growing up in the country with no one living within 4 miles of you, I had a lot of free time by myself to imagine stuff, and so that's what I did. And no, there's no computers. That's how old I am. So there's no internet, certainly, although I was in ARPANET. But it wasn't that fun, I was mainly programming. Anyway, so this comes out of that. And the Curse of Bloodstone Island is basically pirates and vampires, right? And so the two things that I pretty much love the most in the world, and of course I wrote Vampire the Masquerade, so everyone knows I love vampires, and my love of pirates has been ongoing since I first went to Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland when I was 11. And I just absolutely decided, oh, okay, pirates are my favorite thing in the world. So this basically combines those two together in a campaign setting, and it kind of leads up to where it's going to be a role-playing game, Badlander, and then Fang Night, which will be vampires in a fantasy setting. So this is sort of our introduction. And what makes it really unusual is that there's two different books, and one book is for the players and one book is for the game master. And you literally pass the players at some point. You say, the count reaches in his pouch and pulls out a book that looks rad with a symbol, a skull symbol in it. And it appears to be somehow printed in some material. And he says, this is the Guide to Bloodstone. It was written by a scholar, Asquil, who went there and has been gone missing. I want you to go there and find him and make a report on what you find there. And so literally this book is written in character for the players, so they can actually read it as players, but as characters as well. And then it has all these puzzles and clues and maps and everything, so that it creates a more multimedia experience for the adventure.
So Violet Philo, I'm butchering the hell out of that, I'm sure. Tell us more about the main plot of the Bloodstone Isle. Why is it cursed? What is the main plot?
There's these pirates that came from Yerth, and so they're actual famous pirates. I don't want to give away too much in their names, but you'll find out they basically colonized the island. The island has bloodstones, which are able to store enormous power, this moat power that John was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And one second, someone knocking. And so, okay. And so these bloodstones are what made it very, very wealthy and rich. But when the mine ran out, things got a little crazy, and the volcano which the island is based on, went off, and the Shadow Vein came. And the Shadow Vein are a cult of these wacky vampires who are now living at the top of the volcano. And basically, they send people out to harvest the different sections of the island, and everyone on the island is terrified of them. And so, as you circle around the island and discovering from the fens to the dunes to the old white fallen city to the belt of the Jotun, you're going to meet these different peoples, and then eventually climb up Mount Craw and deal with the Shadow Vein directly. So it's basically meant to be an open-ended campaign where the players can kind of do anything they want, but inevitably they're going to be drawn up to that Mount Craw and have some sort of encounter with the Shadow Vein. Whether it's violent or not, it's up to them. But they will fully realize upon reading the book, the player book, that they should not go up there until they're at least of 8th level, maybe 10th level.
So you mentioned player book, so that makes me think there's the GM's book and the player's book, and you had already talked a little bit about like they actually read from it and it's written to them.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I love about it is that so much of time at the table is taken up with the game master explaining and talking about everything to the players and describing. And if just one player has some knowledge of the world as well, it makes things so much easier because they can also explain things. And so when we run the game, I've done most of the play testing, and I play test as any serious game designer. I play test the hell out of everything. Having the players read this book makes my job so much easier because they're telling me what they want to do rather than me leading them by the nose and sort of leading them into stories. And a story that's directed by the players is always better, because the players are pushing the story, then they're more involved and they feel like it's their story. And the book lets them do that because they can read it and they know, oh, we need to talk to this guy. Oh, we're going to try and find this guy. Let's go find this guy. And so suddenly, boom, the stories sort of invent themselves a little bit. The adventures invent themselves. But then the game master has his book, and anytime you go to a new location, you can just open that part of the book up, quickly scan it, remembers what's there, got the stats, got everything he needs, and boom, you have your source book. So it's very open-ended, as you might expect from someone like me who loves storytelling. It's not a dungeon, A to B to C to D to E to F. It's kind of a choose your own adventure, go where you want, explore the island.
Sounds very, very sandboxy.
Mm-hmm.
It is very sandboxy.
With that being said, we have it written to where each location follows consecutively. So there is a suggested path that you go from Freeboot Landing to Bone Dust Dunes to the fens and move on. But with that being said, it really is where you can kind of just go wherever you want. And as the players do explore, there are, they might realize we're not ready to go into the city. Like there's just so much going on. We need to check this out first or whatever. But yeah, it really is nice to have that guided path, but you can go anywhere you want, do whatever you want. And it's really nice that way.
So Kropa Charon wants to know, what is your favorite part of the Bloodstone Isle?
Oh, the pirate town. I mean, they live in houses made from the bones of kraken, which they hunt, but they eat the meat of the kraken, which taints them. But these are Tempest pirates, so they can go into the Tempest, which is this great storm that circles the island. And when they go into the Tempest, they can come out other places in the multiverse. So they go in, hunt the kraken, find ships from different places and times and history in the multiverse, and come back. So, but they're basically mutated pirates. It's just a lot of fun. We have a podcast called Lostlorn Chronicles where they just went there, and I can't wait to take more groups in. That's my favorite part.
So we've got vampire pirates and we've got mutated pirates as well so far.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jason wants to know who are the cool MPs that we should be looking out for. What makes them cool?
John, you want to take that?
Sure. There are a number. Would you say NPs? You mean NPCs, right?
Yeah, NPCs.
So there are a number of them. So just getting into Freeboot Landing, you run into a Badlander, the only Badlander on the island, Jacques. He's got a very interesting story. You've got Lord Carco, who's one of the Iron Knights. That is a subclass that we are going to be a subclass of a fighter subclass that we're going to be releasing with a third book. And you're going to run into Morla the Herbalist. When you get into the Bone Dust Dunes, you come to Hayden the Dyer. You come to a couple other individuals. You have a group of villagers, 4 villages that live on top of these massive turtles. Very interesting group there. I could name off different things for the different regions. I'd say definitely when you get to the city, that's where the major political, all that stuff comes into play. You have the Blood Rose Barony, the Blood Rose Baroness. You have the High Astrologue, Lamek Oros. Those 2 major powers are fighting against each other. You have an entire group called the Management, which is kind of like a shadow agency that kind of like brokers power with people and all kinds of stuff going on there. And ultimately the Shadow Vein themselves. I know that Dominus Rouse is one of the leaders of those Shadow Veins involved. And just heading up the mountain, that's where you really see, that's where everything just goes crazy. It gets insane.
What about
Which
these
is the
turtles? Tell me more about these turtles.
Okay. These turtles are really massive. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact measurements of them, but they're huge. They're big enough where you can have a village on the back.
A small village, a very small village.
Yeah. And they basically go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh,
sorry.
They basically live in the Bone Dust Dunes area. They are one of the reasons why it's considered the Bone Dust Dunes, because they trample everything. They're very huge. They tend to avoid people. And honestly, when we were building them, in some respects, I had in my mind an image of the sandworms of Arrakis. Now they don't look like that in any way, but they are just massive things that you really don't want to involve yourself with unless you are foolhardy or how to climb.
But they're also able to manipulate the shells when they're growing from small to big, so that the shells turn into the shapes of like a fortification.
Yes, that's true.
So the shell is literally their village. It's a fortified village. And every day they take the turtle out to sea and they go hunting for fish and stuff in the sea. And then at night they come back and they sleep on the sand. So it's like it's a whole sort of self-contained little thing.
Yeah,
very proud of that one.
No, it's super cool. I remember in 3rd edition, I don't know if they had it in 2nd or not, but there was something called a Zaratan, and it was basically a giant turtle the size of an island. So we had incorporated that into our games, where it was one of the islands was actually one of those that slept. So like the islanders would throw food to the front of it, so it would just go into its mouth to keep it sleeping. Because if it ever woke up and dove, like it would just wipe out the island, and eventually it would come back.
I would like
slumber.
to caution your listeners from examining the map of Bloodstone too closely and reading anything into it. Don't look too closely at the map.
That sounds like some reverse psychology to me.
That sure does.
Yeah.
Find an association there, yes.
Yeah. How long have you guys been working on this project?
Too long. Yeah, I mean it's all done, right? So yeah, we're at the end. Our hands are washed. We've done. It's laid out. Even it's ready to go. I mean, the second it's released, we'll be sending out the PDF. So it's been a year of just this Bloodstone working on it. Lostlorn has been 3 years. formally working on it. And then, but of course, I've been working on it in my mind since I was a kid. I just sort of got sidetracked and thought I didn't like fantasy. And then Game of Thrones taught me that I love fantasy.
Yeah, it brought you back.
It really did. It was Game of Thrones. I was like, oh yeah, no, fantasy can be really, really good. And at first it was the books. I read the books because um because of the board game. That's before the show came out. I played the board game and immediately bought the books. And then when the show came out, I was like, okay, fantasy is hip. I got to go back into fantasy. And
Well,
but our version of fantasy is, of course, very dark fantasy. The whole idea of Lostlorn is we're going to do fantasy from the monster's point of view.
Yeah.
Right. So when we're doing our games, we're doing a series of games, just like World of Darkness is a series of games from the monster's point of view: vampire, werewolf, wraith, changeling. We're doing 10 games in a row that all are different points of view of monsters. So it's vampires, werewolves, dragons, and so on. And so the world is sort of, based around the idea that these monstrous creatures are not just things to kill, but they're the reason the world exists. They're central. They're very, very powerful groups that are it's incredibly influential in the world. And Bloodstone is kind of a microcosm of Lostlorn in that way.
Yeah.
I also say too, like, I feel like vampire and games like it were a lot more narrative in nature, especially for the time, where it's taken D&D a long time, but it's definitely moved in that direction.
D&D has moved that way so much, and I think a lot of these people playing online, the online people, because you can't really do heavy rules if you're doing a live video podcast. It's sort of people have been able to watch people playing a very storytelling driven form of D&D. And so I think people are moving that way. And in fact, our games, which some of the rules actually we provide in Bloodstone, but our games are very much a storytelling version of D&D 5e rules. It's our own take on it. But for instance, how in Vampire, you take an attribute plus a skill, and you put those two together, and then that's your role. Well, we did the same thing with D&D. So you take your character, you take strength plus your weapon, and each of them are dots, 1 to 5 dots, and that's what you added your D20 roll. But other than that, it's still very much 5e. But it just takes everything and twists it in that storytelling way, simplifies it, and you get a small taste of that in Bloodstone.
So Randy wants to know, how does the D&D 5e rules complement the setting? Are there any special rules from D&D 5e that really makes Lostlorn game setting better than with another rule system?
Yeah, I mean, you get magic items, you get new monsters, you get new character class, the Iron Knights, who are this religious sort of sect of warriors. You get all kinds of stuff that can be used in any campaign. And you can play it up as a straight D&D campaign. You don't have to mention Lostlorn at all to your players. I mean, it could just be an island in your world, and you don't have to do anything other than that. We have a new race, the Basaju. I think there's a number of things that even if you don't play it, you can still get a lot of stuff. Oh, one monster I love that I should mention that this is something from my youth. I have the Belt of the Oten, which is basically it's giant, where each giant has one arm and one leg. So to function properly, they put 2 people together, so they form a complete human being. So they have 2 legs and 2 arms, but they have 2 heads. Mm-hmm. And they're held together with a belt. So the correct way to fight a Belt of the Oten is to try to cut the belt so they flop on the ground and are somewhat easier to take out. But yeah, it's silly, but I love it. And I think we present it in a way that's not silly. And
no, not at all.
Terrifying.
I mean, at first it just looks like a big and I guess it's kind of interesting from the standpoint of if you've never encountered it before. and you don't realize like the belt, like it's not one creature and the belt is holding it together.
Yeah, my theory on monsters is that if we're gonna do a monster, we always want to have something unique about it that changes something at the table when you're fighting it. That makes it interesting. So we have the Cacophonix, which is this sort of Minotaur type monster. But a key thing is that it sings during combat so loudly that talking at the gaming table is not allowed in character during the combat because you can't hear yourself think, much less talk. So that creates another texture of the table, because when you're fighting a Cacophonix, there's no table, there's no talking. So you have to do things through signals and hand signals, but you can't talk to each other to make plans because it's just so bloody loud.
Have you created a lot of like little rules like that are kind of like tweaks to the existing game?
Absolutely. That's everything has, because I think in terms of the storytelling, and what happens at the table, I don't want to just give you people stats. I want to create a unique experience for every magic item and every monster, and it should be something interesting and different. Just so that, because what makes things memorable at the gaming table, is something that's completely different from what you've done before. And I think people have sort of settled into this idea of D&D being a certain way. And so as someone who rejected D&D, because I'm the vampire guy, and I'm too mature for D&D. I'm cool. I'm a LARPer, and then I just come back to it humbled by really how great 5e is. I think it's great. I think it's moved very much towards storytelling. I think it will go further, but I think we've pushed it further. But anyway, I've been humbled, and now I want to bring something new and cool to D&D that maybe I can do now that I realize, how great it is. And honestly, playing with my kids has been a big part of this. My kids do not want to play vampire. But they are totally down for playing D&D at any time, right? So that's a big part of why I'm doing this, is to be cool to my kids.
There you go. Kids will break your heart every time.
One thing that I think is important to specify about Bloodstone Island and just Lostlorn in general, it is a low magic setting. So that is one distinction with D&D in general. Most of the lands, there's high magic here and there. And in Lostlorn, there are aspects that are considerable, like high magic scenarios and things of that nature. But the players, at least when it comes to Badlanders and the people in Bloodstone Isle, the characters don't generally have like high magic abilities. You're not necessarily going to have any sorcerers or wizards or anything like that. That doesn't mean you can't bring a sorcerer or a wizard into that setting. It would just most likely they're going to be pretty capable, and they're going to be very so when you're trying to play a game in that setting, for Bloodstone Isle, we're just using the basic D&D rules. It's when we do Lostlorn, that's where when we do Badlanders, that's where we have the whole handbook and all of those rules set up. So for Lostlorn, however, it is a low magic setting character.
Yeah, and that'll make sense when those games come out. But Bloodstone, like all of our campaign settings, is designed for 5e directly, and then also our games. But our games aren't out yet, so it's a 5e that works with your existing campaign. By the way, Dave, I think I just got the message that we are ready to launch. Do you want to count me down from 10, and I will launch live?
You're gonna push the button? Sure. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off.
Boom.
So everyone run over there and back Lostlorn Games to get your copy. And as soon as it funds and they send the money over, you get your PDF. I'm
terrified.
What did each of you kind of work on this project? What were your roles?
John actually was the team leader, and basically he kept the trains running. It was pretty amazing. He sort of came up as a writer, and my leadership style is that I act as if I'm inept and not organized and can't do anything, and people just step forward magically and do things. I'm just acting though. It's just completely, I could do it, but it's just very important for me to act as if I can't.
Perfect.
Yeah, no,
I'll remember that in the future. I'm not really this disorganized.
No, he's a genius. He knows what he's doing. And I really appreciated, of course.
There's only one kind.
There's only one kind.
Yeah,
No, it was great though. It was a really awesome opportunity to be able to do that. And he's just nothing but helpful, great wisdom, being able to help me out with that. And yeah, it was a great experience building the book. And I don't know what else to say about that. It's great.
Yeah, and I'm basically the I wrote the initial, I always write game design documents, which are these long files which explain how to write and do a game, and sometimes they're followed, sometimes they're not. And so I sort of creatively supervised the process, did a bunch of writing, but largely the team took what I did and sort of fleshed it out, and sort of took it in ways that really surprised me. So it was pretty fun when I was playtesting to read. Oh, okay, wow, and so for me that was the magical part. Of course, I got to go in and develop it and edit it and do what I put that Mark spin on it. But it was still it's always fun to have surprises, and that's a great thing about collaboration and working in teams that I think people don't mention enough. And so I think I want to mention it now, is that being so pleasantly surprised by the ideas and brilliance of other people is really wonderful. There's nothing like it.
So there's cries for War on the Monsters and what is the Dwemer?
Oh, okay. Dwemer is basically how sort of magic, we don't use the word magic, but how magic works. And there's basically 7 different twines of Dwemer. There's Sakra, which is the sacred versus profane. There's Withera versus Farah. There's Sturma versus Natura. And then the abstract, nebulous one in the middle is Nulla. And these are the different ways in which you can express magic. And it deposits itself in physical form. So one of the most valuable things you could have when you kill a monster, for instance, you want to find where their ortho is, where their Dwemer is stored, and you want to harvest that, and then that's worth a lot of money because that's sort of their animus. That's what creates them. And so it's sort of like a spell component that actually is valuable rather than just being, oh, we're not going to keep track of spell components, And this is the idea I borrowed from my game Ars Magica, which is the first game that gave me some fame way back in the 80s. Anyway, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that the word that we use for magic is uncanny, the uncanny. And so that is how we apply it. Anything that is done magically is done in an uncanny way. It is, and that's the term.
Yeah, that's the term we use, is uncanny or arcane. I think one problem is with the way D&D is done is that magic becomes a little bit too mundane, because you throw this word around so much that it loses that power. And as a number of science fiction writers have said, but George R. Martin said it very well, is that one reason why you want to keep magic rare is that that makes it wondrous when it pops up, right? And so Dwemer helps you do that. It doesn't make your magic users less powerful. It just makes them more careful about when they use their magic.
You keep bringing that guy up, but I'm still holding a grudge against him.
It's not his fault. The TV show is not his fault.
Oh
You
no,
mean
not
for
the
not
TV
finishing
show.
it?
My grudge is about the book. My grudge started way before the TV show came out.
Oh, okay. You're mad about him not finishing the book.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think that as a writer myself, I never thought it was going to get done, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it's just so obvious that he just ran out of steam, and these books just got so complicated. I don't think he's capable of keeping in his mind all this information and put it together and completing it in a way. It's just, the world is just too big. There's too many characters running around. There's too many plot points. There's too many details. I mean, he has that couple in Sweden who help him keep track of all the details, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But even they get things wrong. And I think just the weight of trying to get all this stuff right is so heavy, that I don't think he'll ever finish it.
Yeah, I mean that's also an interesting point. Like a lot of them use chroniclers because I think it was like Butcher had mentioned in an interview when someone asked him a question, he's like, "Well, which version? Because I might rewrite something, 3 or 4 times. It'll come back from the editor, So in my mind, it's all jumbled. But like I know, like he got like he was working on the last book, and he's like, "Oh, I wrote too much. It's too big. We had to split it in half, and we're still waiting for the other half." Like 20
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago. And then
yeah.
Butcher recently said the same thing. And I was like, oh no. I was reliving old trauma. But he actually released one half and then the other half like almost immediately after.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just realize that we'll never find out.
Yeah. We'll never know if it was better than the ending of the series.
Yeah. Although the series, I'm pretty sure, even though the HBO doesn't let anyone say this, I'm pretty sure the ending is what George told them to do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Long ago, I resigned myself to George R. R. Martin was going to die from hookers and blow long before this book was ever completed. He's made way too much money.
Well, and honestly, if
your writers hungry.
If that ending is what he gave them, then no wonder he's not going to finish it. He's like, well, there's no point writing that because nobody likes it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why successful writers do small books that are unconnected, right? Like Stephen King doesn't do series anymore. After The Stand, he said, I'll never write a big book again. I'll never write a series, right? Because it's just too hard to keep it all. But he starts fresh. He gets an idea and he does a whole new book. But R. Martin is stuck in this world and stuck in this series, and he can't escape. And he's, oh well.
I think the only caveat to Stephen King was when he got hit by the car and he said, "Okay, I'm going to finish The Dark Tower. I'm going to finish that one, and then I'll be done with it."
Well, I actually came to R.R. Martin not from Game of Thrones, but from his Wildcard series.
Oh, really?
Which he was involved with, which is
he
really good.
That anthology, right? Yeah, I've never read it. But I heard
it's also like the opposite of Game of Thrones, where everything's like kind of connected but not.
Yeah, it's loosey goosey.
Yeah. But it's like it's a great story for anyone that's looking for something to read. Like they're mosaics and all anthologies basically of like what if superheroes were real and they're shitty people for the most part. Well, they're just like regular people, just with powers and aliens. But it is good stuff. So it sounds like you guys have quite a bit planned after the Kickstarter as well.
Yes.
I mean, this is basically our first step one, and then step two will be our Badlander game, which is basically like our Badlanders are like these explorers and adventurers who work for the crown. They're kind of like musketeers in a way, and they're basically our hunters. Like in World of Darkness, I had the Hunters Hunted game, where you play the humans hunting the monsters. Well, this time we did that first, and then after that, that's when the series of monster games comes out. And then we already have Fang Night started. And then we have Bane Knight, which is the werewolf. Fang Knight is the vampires. And then those will be coming out. Then in between each game, we'll have another campaign setting. So the campaign setting after this is Valazar, which is our amazing city, which we already have our campaign setting team working on.
Yep.
And I think the team is pretty big.
Well on your way
a lot of
too.
writers, a lot of artists, a lot of creators, and oh, and by the way, people are welcome if they want to. We actually work mostly out of Facebook. I know that is not cool, but anyway,
It's for us old folks.
Yep.
It's actually a very useful organizational system for the company. Like we've tried every other software, and we always come back to Facebook. But anyway, that's actually where we're in the company. So just look for Lostlorn group, ask to join, and we'll put you in a team, and you'll see if you can like it or not. And you can become a writer or an artist or organizer. You can, you'll get paid after the projects come out, because I don't have any money to pay people.
Passion project at the moment. Passion project.
That's what every prospective employee loves to hear. Don't have any money.
Yeah. But I mean, if you wanna, that's why, of course, we don't get established writers, because they need the money up front. But if you want to learn how to work in this business, if you want to learn how to be a better artist, and by the way, a lot of our artists, when they came in, they were talented but not that developed. Some of them have become absolutely fantastic artists by working with our art director, Adam. And with all of us, and our writers have really just come along and become really good writers. So working with a team like this, I think that's the part I'm really proud of, is that we're helping people hone their skills and become better at what they do.
Yep. So I see, like, I'm looking at the stretch goals, and the Nerdarchy crew's on there, and also some of our friends as well, like Jameson. And I don't know where they found the picture of Jameson with a shirt on. That's odd. Because if you're friends with Jameson or follow him on social media, my wife is like, why won't Satine just give that boy a shirt? So, but also Andy Han is a friend of ours as well. Great guy. Mm-hmm. So you got some cool people working on the project for the stretch goals.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Are you guys going to be hitting any conventions in the future promoting?
Actually, John is going to Gen Con and running a bunch of games.
Me and Jason Brandon, we will both be running. Yeah. He's going to be running all 4 days. I'm just going to be running Saturday and Sunday. But yes, it's going to be awesome.
Me and the
and we're going to the Ice and Dice convention.
Yes.
In January. That's going to be a big for anyone who's a World of Darkness fan. It's going to be a big reunion for all the White Wolf folks, and then we're going to be there in large numbers. Our entire crew who can make it will be going, and we'll be doing extensive Lostlorn stuff and play testing like mad. And so I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, I mainly do conventions in Europe, as you might expect.
That makes sense.
But not that many recently for some reason. I don't know what happened the last year and a half, but
it was zombies or vampires or something.
Dried up.
Yeah.
Me and the missus are gonna be driving out to Gen Con, so we'll be out there hanging out. And then I think Ted might be going to Dice and Ice. I don't remember where we were with that talks, but it's a possibility that he'll be out there as well. So we'll be able to connect with you guys in person at some point or another. So that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. It's for me. It's definitely if this does well enough, then my hope is in a year or so I can move back to the States. I love being an expat, but it's time to be home.
You're tired of having health insurance?
I love having a housekeeper who's here all the time and does everything. There's a lot of great things about being a expat, but it might be good to be closer to my folks. So
yeah, I totally get that. So yes, Doug and Ted will be at Dice and Ice as well. So you guys can meet up with them and hang out. So like you said, this last year and a half has been brutal. And I initially was not going to Gen Con. I've just been like, I'm just tired of being locked down, and we're all vaccinated and everybody near us is vaccinated. So I'm like, I think
Yeah,
it should be okay.
if you're vaccinated, your chances of getting seriously sick, you
Or
can
like
still catch
zero.
it, but are very, very low. You'll
You'll
and
get the flu.
we get convention crud from Gen Con anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been going to Gen Con since the 80s, and
Mhm.
you always get convention crud, right? You always come home and you're wiped out for 3 days, 4 days. You just are sick. So if you catch COVID there and it's a breakthrough, it's not going to be any different from the normal convention
Yeah,
crud.
as long as you're
Price
vaccinated.
you pay.
If you're not
Yeah.
vaccinated, well, you get what you
I
get.
wouldn't go. If you're not vaccinated, then
Yeah.
I understand your decision. I'm not ridiculing you, but don't go to Gen Con. That
Yeah.
would be very foolish.
But so we're just like, I was actually just at the doctor's the other day. I'm like, hey, because I figured once we get back, we'll get tested right away, just for other
Double
people's
check.
peace of mind, and
Mhm.
then take it from there. And we live in different
Yeah.
times, so gotta take precautions. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
Yeah. These are wild times, that's for sure.
So
Wild times.
I will ask, one of the questions I ask, a lot of the guests I've had on, during the end times, did you find yourselves gaming more or less or the same?
Well, for me, I've been role playing, play testing. I like mad, but play testing online is really hard. So like during the severe lockdowns here in Georgia, like my normal group couldn't meet, but playtesting storytelling wise, you can do very easily on Zoom calls, right? But
Mhm.
storytelling, but role like D&D is more crunchy,
Mhm.
right? And so the stuff that we're doing with Badlander, that's and of course we're doing 5e straight with Bloodstone. It just required crunchy playtesting, and that's very hard. I found on Zoom. It's not as easy, and so that's been the problem for me.
Mhm.
But but yeah, I mean, I have my regular board game group. We've been playing regular. We haven't really missed a week. We game online, yeah, through the pandemic, and now I think I prefer board games almost online.
Do you guys
Hmm.
use like tabletop simulator or something?
Yeah. There's a couple different ones that we use, whatever people find. But we talk through Zoom.
Yeah.
But role playing, I'll never. I like role playing in person.
I
It's just so
I
much better.
agree, but you know what? Like, I would not be able to play a game with you two fine gentlemen in person, right? You're in another country and you're on the other side of the country. So, but
Yeah,
with online,
yeah.
we can
And
hang
by
out
the
and
way,
play some games.
if I'm promoting Bloodstone, right, or I'm promoting Badlander, will love to play Zoom. That's great. I love it. It's just having to play test is tricky
Yeah,
because I don't know. It's just tricky.
not the
In
Play
the
same.
test is always hard.
in the past, like before I started writing for Lostlorn games, I was actually gaming for a number of years online because I was up in Washington. A lot of my friends were in California, and so it was just like we would play on Discord, on Roll20, that kind of thing. And that seemed to handle it most. I do understand what Mark is definitely talking about with certain crunchy aspects because it's just easier to be able to be right there. Um, but yeah, ever since I started writing, I haven't been gaming very much. I've been too busy writing, but I'm starting to get back into gaming though now. So it's really nice.
Nice. Yeah, like our group, I guess we're in like month 2 of gaming in person, like after we matched up everyone's vaccination schedules. Because like with me and Ted playing all the same games together. But like we rotate out groups each week, so it's like 3 different groups. But we play like 3 Saturdays out of the month, and there was no better feeling than finally getting together with
Oh
our
God,
D and
yeah.
D groups and being in person and
Yeah,
be able to share a meal. So that was super exciting. It makes you appreciate it that much more.
Oh yeah.
yeah. It's so nice to see people and be around people. Like
Yeah.
I'm a hermit. I first shutdown, I was like, bring it on. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, I can be social online. And then after a while, it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm not that much of a hermit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even even us shut-ins, our ability to stay indoors has been tested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
My
Yes, it
family
has.
would make fun of me, especially because during the lockdown, like, we have like one of those apps that kind of tells everyone where the family's at on our phones, and they're like if I leave, they're like they wouldn't know if something's wrong, because at the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
like, I wasn't going anywhere. We were virtually recording our videos, and they're like, "Whoa, Dad left. What's going on? Is there an emergency?"
Yeah, yeah. I have free range kids,
Yeah,
so they can go where they want. So, but I must admit, during the lockdown, I was like, this is so comforting as a father that my children are not allowed to go anywhere.
yeah. You know where they are.
Yeah, yeah. Now and then suddenly they get their shots, and then now they're free to go anywhere they want again. And yeah, that, now it's I have to pay for all these security guys to discreetly follow them around the city. It's getting very expensive. That's a joke.
So, you mentioned that
Really,
you're going to be
it's not a
making
joke.
your own RPG, right? You guys, you're doing 5e now, but you're also turning it into a standalone RPG.
Well, I mean, Badlander will be its own RPG, but it's completely based on 5e.
Yeah.
So it still uses the open game license. So
Okay.
it's a version of 5e. So imagine it almost as 6e. It's sort of like 13th Age took D&D and then did something kind of new with it, twisted it. We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think for people who like storytelling games, but have players who are want to play D&D and are familiar with D&D and are scared of new rules,
Yeah.
this game will be very, very familiar. There's nothing new to learn, really. It's pretty all standard, but there's some twists and new things that will adds a lot of charm and interest to the game. All new races, all new character classes, which we call guilds, races we call birthrights, and a world that is ready-made for them, right? So the game system is designed exactly for the world, right? Whereas D&D, the wonderful thing about it, well, one thing I love about D&D is that, hey, you can take any rules you want, hack it any way you want, you make up your own world, and I think that's wonderful, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes game masters take so much time up inventing their world, they don't have any time to invent a good story.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've tried to create a really good world and a really good game system that is bespoke, made for that world. So the game master has more time to invent incredible stories. And then we actually teach them how to make really great stories in the Mark Runhagen way, which is the best way, of course. Totally
Oh man.
So
I
minus
actually
one
do a lot
factor.
of research into storytelling to figure out how to teach people to make a really good story for Lostlorn. But I think we have one of the best chapters ever written in gaming that helps someone create a really great chronicles campaign and stories and adventures for their players.
And I absolutely agree. There's a lot of good information, a lot of good guidelines to follow, and it's amazing. It really sets an awesome setup for a campaign.
I'm gonna grab
Yeah.
a question from the chat here. Minus one Thaco and still missed. With Lord Magic in the setting, will there be more tech included? Guns, vehicles, and such.
No vehicles, but we do have like Renaissance era guns and rules for that. And as the things go on, we have an abysma in Lostlorn. So in Lostlorn, hell is not some other plane. It's not some other abstract place. It's underneath you. You dig down, it's down there. And so the abysma is this sort of giant layers and layers of caverns and tunnels, and all eventually leads down to the inferno, which is basically our hell. But the Abysma is famous for giant war machines and such. So when we go, the deeper you get, the more technological things get.
Yeah.
So basically, we're going to get to that later. But in the beginning, it's very early Renaissance. So we have canals, but no steam. We have factories driven by giant windmills and giant water mills, but we don't have like
No smog.
No smog.
Yep.
It's such a unique world. It's hard to capture it in a few turns, but it's basically I
have a very specific Kickstarter question for you guys. From the chat. And also, your fans have the worst usernames. They're all impronounceable by my tongue. So I'm not even going to attempt that one. But what they want to know is I'm trying to decide on the $150 donation level for your Kickstarter. What will be signed? One of the books, the cool maps.
Yeah, I will be signing that $150 level. If I possibly can, I'll be signing the actual book. But I do have to say that if I'm the Georgia, where I live, Tbilisi, Georgia, which is in, just north of the Middle East, we're going through a very bad COVID crisis. So I could be locked into the country. So if that happens, I'll just be doing stickers and we'll put it in. But more than likely, I'll be able to fly over and sign the books. So you get the two main books, then you also get a physical copy of the third book. I'll sign all three books. We'll be numbering them from 1 up. Backers get them. So first come, first serve. So if the first person to order one, you get number 1, and so on. I think we try to make that $150 one, really, really awesome. That's what I told the team. I said, if we're going to have a $150 level, then please make sure it's so incredible that no one ever regrets it for a second in their entire life. And I'm pretty sure they did that. Not that I would know. I'm really, I'm not good at organizing.
Well, at least there's a limit on there. So, there's only so much carpal tunnel that you're going to get from this.
Yeah.
What's the limit? There's a limit. Who did that?
Yeah. And matter of fact,
oh no,
there's only 205 left if you want it to be signed. So get on there.
My goodness. Out. Okay. Wow.
So how long is it going to take you to sign 210 books?
I'm pretty fast, but normally I don't care. But I guess in this case, I have to do it carefully and slowly with a calligraphy pen. So yeah, it'll take hours and hours.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Actually, 210 signatures. It's like getting a mortgage or buying a new car. By the time I'm done, it's just like a line with some bumps in it.
Yeah.
Over here, you just spit in your hand, you shake hands, and it's done.
Yeah.
With the whole village, I bought a house here like that. The whole village watching. You shake hands, the deal's done. You give them the briefcase of money. They give you the keys. Boom, you bought a house.
Bam, done.
Yeah, it was great. Although calling it a house is maybe an exaggeration. More like a shepherd's hut with adjoining barn. But I did get the land.
That's great. How long have you been there?
14 years.
A little while.
Yeah. No, my wife is Georgian. My kids are, binational. But we come back to America most years. We didn't last year, but we're just there in Minnesota for 2 months. So
and now if you leave, they may not let you back. So you might have to wait a little while.
Yeah. So
well, one of our other guests that I had on last week. Actually, they went out to see their sister in Hawaii and got stuck there for like 3 months. They couldn't get back to the mainland.
Yeah, traveling right now is dangerous if you're not aware.
Yeah. Although if you're going to get stuck anywhere in the world, Hawaii,
it's not a bad place to get stuck. It's expensive as hell.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say maybe, but if you're not planning to stay there for 3 months, that could be expensive. What do you do?
Very,
I mean,
very expensive.
he was lucky
I'm
because he was with his family, but imagine like
sure
you
they have
just happen to go,
shelters. I'm
yeah,
sure they have shelters.
something.
Yeah,
Well, if you're gonna be
if I was
homeless,
stuck,
it's a nice place to be homeless.
if
Sure
I was
is.
stuck away from my family, I don't know, that would drive me absolutely up the wall.
Yeah,
I,
a
I
real
wouldn't like
real life adventure that you really didn't want, or worst random encounter ever for sure.
that.
So, what particular thing are each of you most excited about for with this project?
I'm excited about where it's going to lead. Like for me, the problem with Kickstarter is that it takes like 2 years to get your thing, and and I'm not. I did have my first Kickstarter project, Democracy. I did have a problem with getting it done, and it took a little bit extra time. It ended up being 2 years. But that seems like it's normal now for a lot of Kickstarter projects. So what I'm excited about is if our strategy works, that
Yeah.
we can we're going to print on these books on Monday, right? So we're going to have, basically people will have their books in hand, hopefully by the end of the year, before the end of the year, before maybe even by early December for Christmas, basically, right? And I think that's really exciting that you can have a Kickstarter and then so quickly have people get their stuff.
Yeah.
And so the strategy, I love it, because then we can eventually do 4 Kickstarters a year if we do it right. And I think it's very cool to have these high quality artistic products. I'm just curious to see if people, want, storytelling D&D, and do they want fast turnaround, but without all the extras, right? We're not offering dice because that would take too long to have it delivered from China, right? The boats are all stuck out in the, and out in the water, right? You can't get into the ports. Like in California, have you seen the pictures of all the ships just sitting there? Like they can't get into the port,
Yeah,
So
I mean, this past year and a half has been so weird for that. Like, we did our first Kickstarter in 2019, right?
Yeah.
Latter half of 2019. So we were also one of those people that delivered late on our Kickstarter.
Yeah, because with China, it's really, really hard not to. Like, especially during COVID, it's impossissible.
I mean, we were
Like,
lucky. At least we missed the Suez Canal fiasco.
Yeah.
Like, who had that on their bingo card for Kickstarter?
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's that one Kickstarter, I forgot which one, where their container was washed off the ship, and
Jeez.
no one would believe them. Like none of their backers believed them.
Oh my god! Yeah.
But the whole container was washed off the ship, and they were put back to the first square. They had to start all over again. They got the insurance money,
Yeah.
but they were back to square one.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, hopefully that was insured. That was one of my big questions. Like when we were having our book print, I was like, so what happened? I think I literally asked that question. What happens if a shipping container gets washed off the boat?
Yeah. I mean, they will. That is part of they automatically get insurance. Yeah. But it's crazy. Like, when I was doing one project, I was doing action figure game called ZG. To make the Comic-Con, I actually flew over boxes of action figures, and that was just so unbelievably expensive. So anyway, that's why we decided we're just going to do made in America, made in North America, right? It has to be if it has to be made in America or Canada, right? And then that way we can do these fast turnarounds, but it means we don't get to do extra stuff, which is sad. We don't get to do all the fun stuff that other people can do, but hopefully it'll work out.
So
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong though.
So Charles Kahn, that's kind of funny. I wonder if the container will wash up on a beach somewhere in Africa in 10 years. There's a beach in France where Garfield phones keep washing up.
Yeah. And there's a beach in Alaska where
I heard about that.
Floating ducks. Those bathtub ducks.
Oh my god.
They keep washing up in this beach.
It's kind of
something to
amazing,
mull over.
but probably not great for the environment either.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the least of our problems as far as plastic in the ocean goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
true. At least
all
they
all
float.
those
They're on
rivers in
top.
Asia, if you look at the mouth of them, it's just a sea of plastic. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like a lawn of plastic
Like
floating.
there's
No,
an
they call
island
it,
somewhere
it's
that
an island.
formed.
Yeah, it's a plastic island. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an
yeah.
entire island now.
All right,
the
something
guy-
will evolve to eat plastic, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, no, actually, no, they've already studied it. They said that bacteria has already evolved to eat the plastic, that Mother Nature's already taking care of it,
Yeah.
or at least trying to.
Well, it started. It takes
It's
a while.
charted, yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that cellulose, what trees are made of, that for almost 1 billion years after trees evolved, nothing could decompose it. So it just, the forests would just be tumbled up with these logs that couldn't decompose. And that's where our coal comes from. But then finally, mushrooms and other things evolved to eat the cellulose. And so finally the forest cleared out.
I mean,
But
George Carlin had
long
a whole bit about the planet shaking us off. Like,
oh God, yeah, it was great. I
so
loved that.
we're just past the hour mark, and I can't look at Mark any longer because I want a Shamrock Shake with that gorgeous green goatee of yours now, which I can't get anywhere, I don't think. Final thoughts before we head on out.
Well, thanks for having us, and thanks to the audience for listening. And yeah, even if you don't back this project, please stay tuned. I think what's coming up is going to be really innovative and really interesting, and it's going to shake up the D&D world and the storytelling game worlds, and be something that will be very memorable. So I'm really excited about what our team has done and what kind of team we have, and stay tuned.
Yeah. And I'm really excited because as we continue, these will evolve, they'll grow. And that's one thing that I'm excited about, is what we have established will just, even as good as it is, it's going to keep getting better. And so just, pay attention. We're going to have something great coming.
Well, thanks for joining me today, both of you. It's been awesome chatting. As always, folks, links are in the description. Go check out the Kickstarter. And until next time, stay nerdy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.